So the poet, the contemporary, must stir his century in the place. But what does he see when he looks at the senseless face of this century? And I would like now to suggest a second definition of contemporariness. Contemporary is the one who stirs at his time not to perceive its lights, but rather its darkness. I mean that every epoch is dark, is obscure for the one who experiences its contemporaries. This man, this contemporary, is able to see this darkness, who can write, dipping its pen into the darkness of the present. But then, what does it mean to perceive the darkness? The first answer comes from the neurophysiology of vision. What happens when we find ourselves in a dark room, or when we shut our eyes? What is the darkness that we see at that moment? The neurophysiologists tell us that the absence of light activates and sets in motion a number of cells in the periphery of the retina, which are called off cells, and the activity of these cells produces the special sensation that we call darkness. Therefore, darkness is not a negative phenomenon which results from the inactivity or the passivity of the retina. It is rather the effect of the special activity of these off cells. It is a production of our eyes. If we come back now to what I was saying about the darkness of contemporariness, then the perception of this darkness, this blackness, is not a form of passivity or inoperativeness. It implies rather a peculiar capability, which consists in neutralizing the light that comes from the fourth stage of time in order to perceive and discover the special shadow which cannot be separated from that. I will call contemporary only the one who is not blinded by the lights of a century and is able to perceive in them the shadow, the inner darkness. And yet we still lack an answer to my question on contemporariness. Why the vision of the darkness over time should be interesting? The experience of darkness seems, on the contrary, to be essentially anonymous and inscrutable, something which is not meant for us, and therefore cannot concern us. I would say, quite on the contrary, that the contemporary is precisely the one who perceives the darkness of his time as his most intimate concern, as something which directly addresses him. The contemporary is the one who gets directly into his eyes the beam of darkness that comes from his time. When we look at night to the heaven, we see the stars shining, surrounded by deep darkness. This seems quite normal to us. But, according to the scientists, given the fact that there is in the universe an almost infinite numbers of galaxies and luminous bodies, this darkness needs an explication. I would precisely now to speak of the explanation that modern astrophysics gives for this darkness and try to define contemporary through that. The most distant galaxies run away from us at such a speed that their light cannot reach us. What we perceive as the darkness in the heaven is precisely this light which moves fast towards us and yet cannot reach us, because the galaxies from which it comes run off at speed higher than that of light. To be contemporary means to perceive in the darkness of the present this light which strives to reach us but cannot reach us. This is why contemporary are real. This is also why to be contemporary is above all a matter of courage, for it means to be able not only to stir at the epoch's night, but also to discern in this shadow a light which, directed toward us, runs so unceasingly for us. In other words, it means to be on time at a date that we can only miss. This is perhaps why the present, and not to understand words, this is why the present that the contemporary perceive has a broken backbone. Our time, our present, is not only the most distant from us, it cannot in any case reach us. These verticals are broken and we stand exactly in the point of departure. This is why, in spite of everything, we are in some way